I'm literally walking out like the Pink Panther. Like literally. There is nothing more taxing to me than being spoken to like I'm some derelict child. I can't deal. Like right now there's a power cut and I'm going to the bank to fetch my bank card because it's ready. And I literally stole the key from the kitchen counter. And if they find that the car's not here, I'm like, whatever. My little sister takes the car key, goes wherever she wants to go, keeps it on her person, and no one questions her. And yet this woman treats me like I'm the scum of the earth. I'm so crushed. I'm so drained by mistreatment that I literally feel like I can't breathe anymore. I'm headed to the mall. I'm just trying to charge my phone using the car's charging station. I don't know where to put my phone so that it can keep on charging because my battery's quite low. Is that cool? Or here, I don't know. I just want to put it somewhere where it's not gonna fall around all over the show as I drive. I hope that's okay. I'm driving to the bank right now. There's a full tank of gas. Good. I'm even tempted to drive to Sandton. I am so out of my mind, agitated. Like, I'm not even agitated, I'm just heartbroken. My spirit is flat, right? Sorry, I don't know what to do or where to put my phone so that it can continue to charge while I talk. These are the kinds of things that remind me that I don't have resources to do what I need to do. I just want to put the phone somewhere where it's not going to fall, but also be able to charge it. One moment, I think I can do something here if I flip it this way. There we go. I just turned it around. Oops. Sorry. Okay, so there is currently this case in the United States at the present moment running, and I've been trying to follow it, but I'm not doing a really good job following it because you know how court cases take so long sometimes, and when they're trying to overturn precedent, it can take even longer. The name of the case is basically they are looking to overturn an abortion law. Sorry, I'm looking for my keys. They're looking to overturn an abortion law that was done in the 60s or some other like long ago decade, right? And the name of the case is Roe versus Wade. And their pro-life advocates are trying to, of course, advocate that it should be like done away with. The law that pretty much legalized abortions across the United States. The Christian community is prayerful, hoping that Roe versus Wade is going to get overturned. I believe that's what's actually going on. And I've been trying to follow it, but like I said, I'm not doing a very good job because it's taking forever and a day for decisions to be made. So I just rely on Christian YouTubers, Christian commentators and whatnot to like let me know what's going on. Like I trust that they are on par. But right now, it's like I think they're just still deliberating. You would imagine that an advanced civilization like the United States, in these last days that we are living in, these horrific last days that we are living in, you would imagine that it would be unfathomable, given how society is just getting increasingly wicked as the years progress, that a Supreme Court would rule against something that society has just embraced and taken in their stride as fact and acceptable, and it is no longer as taboo as it used to be in the past. You would imagine that in a country like the United States would never on such, sorry, you would imagine that a country like the US would never go back on such a decision like abortion. Like, abortion has just been so accepted in society across our countries. I mean, I'm South African, and I know that abortions are legal. They've been legal for a very long amount of time. Ever since I could remember, I think we got taught in high school that abortions are legal, and that kids, even kids, like teenagers, don't even need parental consent to do it. So in this country, abortions have been legal for decades now. Don't know exactly how long, but they've been illegal for a minute, and apparently it's just a norm. Apparently it's okay. Like, apparently that's just the way that it is now. That society has progressed in a way where it's just normal now for abortions to happen. If anything, if you're pro-life, you're kind of archaic, you're backward. Like, who still thinks like that? It's like with fornication, with sex. There was a time when a woman had sex outside of marriage, especially a woman, she was a damaged woman. Like, it was over with for her. She might as well just lean on, as today a public holiday, why are the streets so empty? It's a bit worrying. Anyway, you would imagine that, like, there was a time when fornication was just like such a taboo that if a woman was not a virgin at marriage, it's like, whoa, if you are a man and you still wanted to marry her, your reputation was going to be destroyed, as your nobleness as a man was going to be put into question. Can I go? Okay, thank you. Goodness, this thing keeps falling. Anyway, I apologize. Your street cred as a man was going to get eroded away as. But now in the 21st century, as all these years have progressed down the line, sex before marriage is now the new normal. It is common. The woman who stays chaste and a virgin until marriage is the weirdo. She's the one that's kind of backward, archaic, and really not with the times. And frankly, missing out on life, apparently. Okay? So abortion is like that. Like, at least that's how I've been looking at it, being a South African. It's this thing that was once upon a time a violent taboo, and now it's just so part and parcel and common in our society that anybody that rocks up and says, like, babies in the womb are human and it's murder, like, pro-life advocates, basically. They are the archaic ones. They're the ones that are backward, and they're the ones that are trying to thwart women's rights and all that jazz, right? So a country as influential as the United States to influence even the laws or the culture changes of other countries, given that it is the world superpower, you would imagine that being usually number one, pioneering in thought leadership across the world to make people think a particular way, you would imagine that the Americans would be the last society in the world to ever second guess an abominable law. You would imagine an abominable law that nonetheless has become the norm, like it's become acceptable, like fornication. You would imagine that the US would, for instance, be the last country where apparently there's like sexual liberation, where now having multiple partners is apparently fashionable. You would imagine that the United States of America would be the last nation in the world to go back on that, to say, look, no, we were mistaken, okay? Really, a woman's chastity, men's and women's chastity, purity in Christ, that is great. Like, let's just keep that going, okay? You would imagine that the US is a country that, because it's so thought leading and so number one, when it has like striven ahead to influence the world negatively, it would never change its mind. Those who would change their minds are those that are still backward countries that are maintaining what are considered to be archaic ways of thinking, world viewpoints, okay? So I am frankly quite shocked out of my mind that the United States is even thinking about humiliating abortion at all. Like, I'm shocked that they're even thinking about overruling Roe versus Wade. I'm shocked. Like, they're such a wicked society, and they have so badly influenced the world, right? They've so horrendously influenced the world in a bad way. The world has become just sexualized very, very much by the US. It has become violented by the US. I know that's not a word, but it's been made more violent because of the Hollywood, because of the entertainment industry that promulgates so much violence. Because of the US, everybody else is just basically really in a bad bunch with God, right? So a country that horrendous in a lot of its influence, but they think they're great, you would imagine they would be the last ones to humble themselves to realize that something is messed up. The United States is also currently pontificating this just like menacing agenda called wokeness, and it's just making everybody forget, they're blurring lines, forget like just basic common sense, you know, like gender facts, and like girls are girls, boys are boys, like that's it biologically. They're changing curricula at universities and schools. Like, the US is doing a funny weird little thing. Thankfully Europe has not quite gotten on board with that. They don't agree with the woke agenda. Most of the world like just has not quite yet gotten influenced by it, but it is the world superpower, and a lot of times whatever we disagree with the United States, everybody just catches up anyway. They like eventually just embrace their rubbish, right? So one might then, as a Christian, look at the US and be like, hey man, guys, you're dropping the ball. You are quite ridiculously. And so obviously God is judging you. Like, your president Joe Biden is a judgment on you. That's why everything is just falling apart. That's why you are basically being threatened even as the world's reserve currency currently. That is why Saudi Arabia is not taking your phone calls, and that's why they're changing their trading for petrol, for oil, basically, with instead of using petrodollars, they're trying to use the yuan now. So working with China, stuff like that. Like, you're losing your clout. That's why all these things are happening, and it is all strangely also happening, or conveniently happening, during Joe Biden's administration. So God is judging you as a country, right? And then what is going on, what is presently happening with this Roe versus Wade thing, then happens. And it's like, if a country is so far gone that God is judging it and it's over and it's Sodom, and all that needs to happen is Lot must get out of Sodom now, because there's no talking to them anymore. If a country's that far gone, they don't get to a point where they're even second guessing wicked laws. They just run with them. They become as menacing as the apocalyptic society in the movie Apocalypto, where they are just human sacrificing as a total country. And it's just acceptable, and they are worshipping the sun and the moon, and everybody else that is a victim of theirs is shocked that people can be this horrific, right? A country that has been handed over to its reprobate or debased mind, period, where there is no coming back from that because they're that rebellious, does not second guess wickedness. They don't become, long story short, contrite. They don't get convinced that something is not okay. They don't even table it for discussion. It's literally not a thing that we're even going to talk about. And yet they're talking. The Roe versus Wade thing, the fact that a Supreme Court is even thinking about overruling abortions in major states, and saying that that ruling, and saying that they're not allowed anymore at a particular, like the heartbeat law, all of those things. And I'm like, abortion is apparently so acceptable, like sex these days before marriage, that a country like the US to go back on that in such a massive capacity, that is huge. That says that even if a country is far gone, or it has become kind of stupid, like what is happening right now with the US and its woke agenda, even if that is the case, okay? If, however, there is a very strong Christian community in that land, nothing is impossible. It can be overcome. How do you know what is necessary in order for you to feel hope for a land? It is if people can be snapped out of craziness. And I'm noticing that in the United States, every random funny odd stunt that is pulled by the government of Joe Biden, or the influenced by Barack Obama government, I have noticed that it is getting resisted successfully, in the sense that people are second guessing. Like, even with the coronavirus, what do you call this, like mandates, you know how they try to mandate the jab and whatnot. Like, there are states that are like, okay, we started out kind of gangster, but no, it's not working. It's literally just messing with life. We can't carry on. Like, people are making bad decisions and then they're going back on them. They're second guessing. It means that there is a body of people that are praying and they're doing a thing, and this thing that they're doing in Christ is actually prospering to basically uproot structures. It is basically prospering to dismantle insanity. It is weakening the hold of the enemy, the diabolical strongholds that make people kind of loco for a season. When the Christian community comes together and they pray, people overcome basic dumbness that is induced by like principalities and all that jazz. And I am noticing that Joe Biden's presidency, because the guy is just dropping the ball so much, and so many people voted for him. Well, actually, some argue that the election was stolen, but let's not get into that right now. Because, however, he has dropped the ball in so obvious a way, and with also the issue that he has with cognitive decline. I mean, look, I'm not dissing Joe Biden for that. It's actually quite sad to see him struggle and fumble around. Like, don't tease the elderly type thing. I literally mean that. Like, it makes me feel sad to watch him struggle. So the way that Tucker Carlson disses him, I sometimes feel like, take it easy, man. This is a disease. Like, you don't like mock a person for being sick. But when you're busy ruining a country, sometimes you just kind of need to be dissed a little bit. But Joe Biden makes me feel sad. He breaks my heart because he's obviously not fit, and he obviously is a puppet on a string, and he's being used by people, and he's just like proliferating or promulgating an agenda of other people, and he's like the face of some other nefarious forces. And so I really feel bad for him. So I don't go too harsh on the guy, right? I kind of have a heart for him, but he is a foolish president, and he is used by nefarious forces behind him, and those are the forces I'm upset with. I'm upset with Barack Obama and his conglomerate of Illuminati like puppets. Okay, that's who I'm upset with, because it's obvious that Joe Biden is a pawn. It's clear. It's just so clear, and I feel bad for him. Okay. So he's basically running the United States into the ground. Even the response to Ukraine's issues right now with Russia invading, he has changed his mind so many times about what's going on there that obviously somebody's busy telling him what to say, and when he doesn't say it properly, he is made to correct it. And I'm just like, oh man, like somebody give this guy medical leave so another president can come in that we can all diss without feeling sorry for him, another president that we can tease without feeling bad that we're basically afflicting the elderly, a geriatric. And it's strange because you know how they used to mock Donald Trump when he was, I'm looking for parking and it's just not happening fast enough. They used to mock Donald Trump for being old, and then Joe Biden rocks up and is a few years older than Trump. So anyway, whatever, American politics is hilarious. You just watch it and you laugh, but you also feel sad because they're too influential to be this cantankerous right now, over the world scale. Come on, man. It's like, what day is it? It's Tuesday, guys. Like, I never get why the mall is so packed on days like today. Like, it's literally just beyond me. I'm parking 10,000 kilometers away from the door because of the fact that it is so packed. Anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter. I've got legs and I can walk. I can run too. I can do what I want to do. But people are acting like that's not a thing. Okay, so thanks to Joe Biden, when he came to office, people voted for him because they were upset at Donald Trump for the wrong reasons. You know, when a country's just crazy, they were upset at Donald Trump for all the wrong reasons, because everybody is always just trying to blame all the issues of the United States on race. Donald Trump was called the president that was totally racist, and so therefore his responses to things that involved black people were always received with a bias. Like, this guy's racist, so don't listen to him. So when the George Floyd thing happened, everybody was just like throwing their toys off a cart on some black men in America are targeted, and there's like police brutality, blah blah blah, all that jazz. And that whole George Floyd thing then sparked those ridiculous like character flaws that we saw in the American population, literally across the board, be they black, white, pink or purple. They just went and ransacked and looted and insisted that police get defunded, and like it was just like a cantankerous barbarianism show all over the show. And like literally nobody could believe across the world that these are the Americans, like really these are the guys that we all look at. But unfortunately, as influential as the United States is in terms of the world events, I'm so tempted to take this phone out of the charger, but at the same time I'm like, no, I don't want to, because I want it to continue to charge, so I'll just leave it there. We all watch them do that, but because they're as influential as they are in the US, and because everybody just wants to feel as if though, no, I'm not racist, and so I'm just going to stand for a cause that is against like slapping black people with insanity. Some white people also joined in, Indian, whatever they might be, across the world in standing for the Black Lives Matter movement, and so they emulated what they were doing, and so everybody around the world was looting, everybody around the world was bringing down statues, everybody in the world was rioting, like literally the whole planet was thrown into a circus mode because of the Black Lives Matter movement's reaction to George Floyd's death. And during that time, that was when Donald Trump was campaigning for a second term, and of course then Biden too. And Biden was just spoon feeding a mob, a group thinking mob that was temporarily crazy. Joe Biden went on right ahead to literally give a mob in a trance of anger that was unfounded, anger that was without proper context, and anger that had caused the whole planet to basically just throw toys out the cart and overturn everything. And Joe Biden was like, I'm going to give this angry crowd exactly what they want. However, Donald Trump was calling a spade, and he was like, this is rubbish. What kind of nonsense is this? Like, what's down? Okay? You don't get to bring down statues. You don't get to vandalize your society. You don't get to loot. You don't get to defund the police. What are we going to do without them? I mean, you're already struggling to keep yourselves in a bunch with all these police walking around your streets. What then when they're not there? When there's no law and order? And Donald Trump was basically stating facts. But because Black America had gone on to just write him off, including the celebrities, and they're so influential, they'd written him off as this racist president. Anything that he said was just proliferating. To suggest that all lives matter apparently is to suggest that black lives don't. He was apparently this dude that was just trying to push a very archaic Confederate agenda, and he was trying to bring back Nazism or something. I don't know what. Like, there was just this like miscalculation of what the dude was trying to do. The Christian community, however, was sober, and so the Christian community was like, hey, like, we can't vote for Biden. We can't vote in this particular way because, Donald Trump has his problems. He's trying to grab women's vaginas. That is a problem. But politically, for the country, this is not our guy. And here it is that Joe Biden rocks up and is like, yes, I'm pro defunding the police, pro wada wada, all that jazz, and then they vote for him. They put him in power. Some argue that, he actually lost the election, but again, we're not going to try and speculate over that, right? And then now he's in office. So Donald Trump was kicked out like a soccer ball, right? He was just like slapped to the side on some, "You racist president, you leave us alone." And literally, it did not take that long. I keep asking myself, when does Biden's reign of terror come to an end? It feels like it's just lasting too long now, right? To watch them is taxing. To watch what's going on in the United States is grating. It's like, skin me alive and I would feel better from being skinned alive than to watch what's happening in the US right now. Okay, so here it is that Joe Biden comes into office and just nullifies every executive order that Donald Trump ever brought on board, including declaring Jerusalem the state of the capital, of Israel. So I mean, really, if you go against Israel, according to the Bible, you go against God, and so your country gets judged when you are anti-Israel. That's the first thing. So he just did these random things where he was not so much pro Palestine, but he was pro two-state solution, and God is like, no, that's my people's country, and as the United States, you must serve and cover and protect, if at all you're going to maintain your blessings under me, Israel. That's what you need to do. So you don't get to say half Palestine, half Israel, let's do a two-state solution. When have they ever agreed in the Middle East? When have they ever come in one accord? When have they ever been happy to share one land? Only look now in the middle of Ramadan, Easter, as well as Passover, what's going on there at the Temple Mount. Just rubbish. Okay, there's always war between the three Abrahamic religions, right? And there's always war between Hamas and Israel. Like, there will never be a day when they be cool. Like, they were shocked when Israel gained its independence back in the 40s because it was not supposed to happen, like, ever. And when it happened, they have ever since then determined that we're going to take it back, we're going to wreak havoc. What? And they're still fighting over the Golan Heights, saying it doesn't belong to them, the Gaza Strip. There's like a whole, so really, if at all you're a country, you either are for Israel or you are against them. You can't be in the middle. And Joe Biden is straddling the fence. And in straddling the fence, Israel lacks protection from the world superpower. And Israel is a tiny little country. So really, if it does not have protection from superpowers, it's like laid waste and kind of like, naked. And that is why it is that in the war of Gog and Magog, in Ezekiel 38 and 9, God himself is going to intervene on behalf of Israel because of the folly of the US that will likely cause them to lose their superpower status, and the folly of the rest of the world in refusing to be decisive about really what's going on there in Israel, and in their cowardice then leave abandoned Israel to its wiles, to everybody else's wiles, and that's when it's going to become a cup of trembling. Those who will try to heave it away, they will surely be cut into pieces. Okay, God will intervene on behalf of Israel himself, but the United States, that has been pro-Israel for the longest amount of time, the biggest and baddest protector for Israel, is pulling these down. So I mean, that's like the first thing that has caused the country to kind of operate under a curse. And then because of all of that nonsense, then there was the defunding of police, there was the a proliferation of the LGBTQIA plus 2SL, whatever, the one that Justin Trudeau can't even pronounce. Their agendas, like just the infiltration of these agendas even in the school curricula within public schools. Disney is actually choking up everybody's stores. Like, the US is acting a fool. Okay, they're like itopo, like there's a toy in black culture called itopo. You throw it with a string on the ground and it just kind of spins. That's what the US is right now, like a topo. Okay, and it's just like spinning and spinning, and the world is confused because it keeps on changing its decisions, its mind on what it is that it initially said. And that is the bane of everybody's existence right now, because when they're unstable, literally the rest of us are actually in these streets left out on a limb, because they're supposed to be the protector of the world. God gave them that glory, God gave them that solidity, God gave them those freedoms, God gave them that status as the world superpower, precisely because they were so God-fearing. And now they're going awry. Okay, they're going super duper awry. All of these things then started to fall apart. Joe Biden's eradication of all of the executive orders that Donald Trump ever did, then the fruit of them are being born now. I mean, if you're wicked, God says that do not be deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, so too shall he reap. So if you reap to the flesh, if you sow to the flesh, you will reap corruption, but if you reap to the spirit, you will reap eternal life. So a country that sows so much ridiculousness is going to reap corruption. And when you have been living in a country that has been relatively free and sober, and you can do what you need to do there without fear of whatever, and then all of a sudden there's just no regard for your heart, no regard for your plans, your dreams, no regard for anything at all that you're doing, on that day you're gonna freak out that your country is doing you dirty and there's nowhere to run. Like, where does an American run, guys? I mean, I'm in Africa and I'm having a hard time. I'm in South Africa, do you understand? And I'm being abused from here to like Timbuktu. I could run to Europe, I could run to the United Kingdom, I could go and get an apartment in London. I could run to the United States and live in Los Angeles or Nevada, Las Vegas, and just not gamble. I could go to California, whatever, right? I could move to the US. I could move to Canada. Well, Canada's looking kind of strange right now, but you get my point. I could go to Australia. But where does an American go? Where, when everything falls awry in the United States, are Americans going to go? Literally, it does not get any better than that. It doesn't. They could go to Europe, indeed. We understand it. But at the end of the day, when the world superpower that is everybody's shelter from the storm, when every country's governments are acting a fool, when people can run to the US and now they can't anymore because the US has been laid desolate because of its ridiculousness at present, where then does everybody run? Like I said, I can go to the UK. I can go to Australia. I'm in Africa. It's ridiculous down here in these streets. But where does an American go when their country starts to disregard basic things? Basic things that make it possible for people to live comfortably. Where does America go? Where do Americans go? So when then in your country you start to experience the level of ridiculousness of corruption in your government like that which you would find in African countries or South American countries, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Literally, there will be no place found for them. There will be no place, but thankfully people are able to recognize those things and wake up from them, right? And I imagine that Americans are currently waking up to realize that if our country continues down this path, where the heck are we gonna go? We cannot go to Cuba. We can't go to Mexico. No. We cannot go to like, what is this? Colombia. We cannot go to Brazil. Like, if the quality of your life is going to be significantly reduced by moving, then what you're going to do is fight for your country. And I believe what's presently happening in the US is that American citizens, as much of a trance as they might have been in when they voted Biden into power, they're waking up to realize that unless we fix this nonsense, we're not going to have anywhere to go, because there is nowhere else literally in the world where we're going to get a better quality of life than here. We got to fight for these liberties. Joe Biden has only ever wreaked havoc, and in so doing basically vindicated Donald Trump. He has basically, like, he literally, his entire office, it appears, has been just like primarily to make Donald Trump appear to be the dude that was badly accused of things he did not do. That is what it's looking like right now. So all of those black people that were anti-Trump just because they could are waking up to realize that, my goodness, Donald Trump was actually given us by God. He was sober and he was rational, and yes, he might have wanted to grab some women's vaginas, but everybody got their problems. What he did not do was topple the American landscape to a point where it is barely recognizable today. Joe Biden has been a puppet on a string that has made the US look like a country that is insufferable, that cannot be lived in anymore, and as a result, there are natural disasters that are hitting the United States during Joe Biden's presidency, if you notice, that never before were the case. Those floods in New York, the current state of Lake Mead at the present moment, it continues to get drier and drier and drier. There is no water getting to certain parts of the United States. Like, this thriving land with so much farmland that Bill Gates keep on buying is choking and suffocating, and now it's facing the threat of nuclear war because of what's going on with Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. And the United States' response, therefore, in providing all of these arms to the Ukraine and blah, blah, blah. There is a massive danger gawking at the United States at present, and I believe not only the Christian community is waking up, but so too are lay Janes and Joes on the street. Something that South Africa's not quite getting around to doing fast enough. When your country starts to lose shape and go awry and become a little bit of a balloon with nothing but just one little needle needed in order to pop it, unless an immediate fast like strategy is employed in order to recover them from insanity, pretty much like what happened in the Bible with Aaron's staff, where it is that he placed it in the center of the people and the plague that was killing them stopped when he intervened. Unless people make like Aaron and put a staff in the middle of some kind of a demising domino tipping event, that country or that situation and land, that ecosystem is going to just go bust. Okay. And I imagine, I anticipate that because, I personally have been raised by the American church. I kid you not, I came to Christ in this country in 2011, found difficulty actually getting edified by preachers, found difficulty actually getting successfully discipled, and so I went on YouTube and I got trained up in the admonition of the Lord by American pastors. Literally, my doctrine, my Christianity is very American, because I, for the life of me, could not find discipleship as I needed in South Africa. I got trained online how to be a child of God, how to be a daughter of the King. So a country that is that successful to create servants of God is not going to be forsaken by the Most High. If the preachers and pastors are still prayerful, and if the Christians on the ground are still prayerful, no matter how small a number they might be, a remnant, God says that in a country that's kind of desolate and bust, and he's not going to do anything for it, he will take out Daniel, he will take out Job, and he will take out Noah, and then he will bring judgment on that country because he's done with it. But if that country, you know how with Sodom, Abraham negotiated with God on some, what if there are 50 people? What if there are 30 people there? And God was like, if there are 30 men, I will leave Sodom alone. I'm not going to kill it. If there are 20 men, I'm not gonna. But then there was just Lot and his family, and then God took Lot out and extracted them. If there are 50, 60 people that are God's servants and they're fervent, the Lord will rescue the entire country on behalf of that number of people, however small they might be. And I personally have gotten edified even in the season of persecution that I'm in right now, and have grown very much in Bible prophecy in terms of understanding end times events and all that jazz because of the American church. Like they're going awry in the United States. Their government is kind of loco at present. However, the Christians are the most single body of edifying Christians I've ever seen anywhere. They're the most doctrinally sound, they're the most prayerful, they're the most careful, they're the most observant of the times, they're the most watchful, and I frankly am yet to find the level of quality of Christian ministry that I have found in the US anywhere else in the world. Not that they don't exist, but they don't exist at that caliber, that quality, and in those quantities anywhere else. The Lord is not going to let the biggest exporter, therefore, of devout Christianity to the world just be crumbled. I don't believe it is time for the total and complete annihilation of the United States. I do believe at some point it will get there because the country continues to increase in wickedness. But we're not there. We can't possibly be. Because if the Lord is going to judge the US and wreak havoc in its life the way that he did in what do you call this place? In Sodom, okay? Then first to go will be all the other countries that hate God, that keep on sacrificing to their children to the fire, like Moabites, giving their kids to the idol god Chemosh. All other barbaric countries that are frankly insensitive to the Christian cause, they would first go. The Lord would first annihilate Iran, annihilate South Africa, annihilate Nigeria before he will annihilate the US. There frankly is not yet a great enough incentive by the Most High to blast a cap in the knee of the US. There is no incentive. I don't believe it's there. Because there are 50, 60, 70 people there that are still prayerful and haughty. Now, the threat of Vladimir Putin, like literally facing his nukes to the US, I don't even think that's going to get very far. I don't think it's going to go very far. Why? Because Russia is not godlier than the US. The Middle East is not godlier than the US. So the support of Russia, the Syrian mob, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, like all of these like bodies that Vladimir Putin is in concert with, they are not godly, and so they cannot conquer us yet. They cannot win. The reason why the world falls apart in the days of the Antichrist is because everybody has gone awry and has walked away and apostatized from Jesus, so God judges the world. But the Lord is not about to allow a nation that still has very strong Christians in it to be handed over into a country's hands that does not serve God. So the US will eventually get to a point where it's like, what's overkill, like whatever, bye. And God is then going to judge them entirely and let them be laid waste and desolate. But I don't think we're there yet. I literally do not think we're there yet. I do not believe we are there yet. And so I look then at this whole situation with Roe versus Wade. And I'm like, what happened for the US to want to change its mind about abortions? Okay, fine. So the case is not yet finished off yet, right? But why would a country that is so proliferating of world dirt, basically, be happy to put some babies in a bathtub and wash them all of a sudden? Why would Christians suddenly have hope that abortion might actually be outlawed in the United States of America, or at least in most of its states? Why under heaven would a country that wicked suddenly change its mind? A wicked leader. Many Americans say that Joe Biden is a judgment on the US, and I do believe that is true, but I believe he's more of a Jonah type judgment, in the sense that insofar as the right amount of preaching can be promulgated, the people will call a fast in the land and the leadership will repent, including the people on the ground. This is a call to repentance through placing a wicked leader. So it's like what happened with Saul. Like, you will remember that the people of God had God for a king. And then they were uncomfortable and they looked around and coveted the governmental structures of other nations and they were like, we want a king, right? And then God gave them. He gave them a king. However, before he gave them a king, he said, fine, you are reprobate and stubborn. I will give you a king, but understand that he's going to grieve you. He's going to make your life a living misery. A mere mortal, a human king is always he's not going to be perfect enough to lead you, and you will be grieved by him and his greed and everything that he's going to do. His policies on the ground are going to grate the living daylights out of you. And the people were like, we don't care, we want a king. And so Samuel anointed Saul, and then from there on there were kings that came. Not the majority of kings in Israel written of according to the word of the Lord as they did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Literally the great majority of them were evil, and the great majority of them wreaked havoc in the lives of God's people on the ground, and they were scattered. They did not worship God, and so they were thrown across the lands because of their rebellion. Blah blah blah. What a fish face. You can count literally a handful of kings that the Lord gave favor to, people like Jehoshaphat and Solomon and David, and I'm trying to find another one that was godly, but they literally were just like a small little handful, the kings of Judah and the kings of Israel as well. So like human leaders for the better part of the time will always just be very grating to the society on the ground. It is best when people just are content with Jesus, like he is your king and that's it. Hallelujah, amen. As Christians, our king is indeed Christ. He has told us that where you live, honor the structures of your governments, but understand I am number one. So because we have not been greedy and sought a human king, we are able therefore to influence the affairs of our countries on our knees. We are able to influence the affairs of our nations on our knees, like by just praying. Is there something wrong, guy? Yeah, by simply praying.
That is what it is that we're about. Like we're all about that business. That's what's good. And so Jesus Christ our King has seen it fit then to bless us, the church, with the ability to transform paradigms of the world just in here, just by praying type setup thing. So therefore, the Christian conglomerate in the United States at present, I believe, has prospered to soften the hearts of the country by, when the Lord's anger or face is turned against a person, they will stumble, they will fumble, they will clutter about their words, they will roll around like a tumbleweed aimlessly, and they will be uninfluential. They will literally not be acceptable. They will get mocked and teased by the world. I don't think the United States has been more mocked and more teased with any other president than they're presently being teased. Like if you watch Sky News, they're from Great Britain. If you watch what is that Indian news channel? I forgot about it. The way they mock the United States. It's like anybody at all that could compete with the US, they are doing real good in winning the competition. They have these clips of Joe Biden doing these funny things, Kamala Harris saying these odd things, laughing, cackling about like a hen during serious matters, and they're just covering it, and it's like, what if, guys? Like, you literally cannot afford to lose your strength, because if you lose, what's gonna happen to the rest of us? Because there are no other options. I've been saying that, like, literally, when a free society goes bust, the world then follows after whoever is going to take up after it. And if all number one status is given to a totalitarian, like Russia or like China, it's over for the rest of us. We have a vested interest as a global community to protect the United States, because that will then in turn protect the freedoms of other countries in the world. Can't afford for them to go bust and awry. No matter how many jealousies you might want to slap their way because they got to become a superpower or whatever, no one can afford to let them lose. Literally nobody. But people don't think right. They don't see, competition can just make a person dumb for a minute. You need to accept where leadership has been given and be happy to embrace it. When you want to be a boss because you're megalomaniacal and you want to just lord over an iron with everybody, even though you don't have the skills or the quality to be a leader, you're going to be a menacing boss, and you're going to make the people on the ground grieve and moan and lament. Okay. And the United States is currently everybody's boss, and it has done a pretty good job in so doing. So literally you need to give credit where it's due. But it's going crazy right now. And so the Christian church that is praying on the ground there, what is happening is that I believe they are changing the hearts of people, because the Lord is making the leadership of the United States so crazy at present, so loco, so obviously kind of like, what are you doing? That those that initially were pro-insensitive and bizarre agendas are like, I don't know anymore. I'm not so sure. I can't carry on like this. Like, literally, I can't. No. Whatever this Biden thing is. Okay, fine. So maybe I had issues with Donald Trump, but goodness gracious, like, what is Joe Biden doing? So I believe the American conglomerate is getting humbled to realize that they are literally crazy. Do you know that there is some law that is currently being passed in certain states that say that infanticide is okay? Infanticide is the murder of babies. The abortion laws are getting so ridiculous in the United States right now that they went from pretty much saying you can, the heartbeat law basically says that you can't have an abortion once there is a heartbeat in a baby. And people are lamented against that. They started saying that they can have abortions now up to the 3rd trimester. Your baby's fully formed by then, okay? You can give birth, prem babies live to ripe old ages, thriving, intelligent human beings, right? So if a baby got born in the last trimester, there would be a prem baby if it's prior to 9 months. They're a whole thriving human being. There are some babies that even get born in the latter part of the 2nd trimester and make it. And they are saying that you can have a baby all the way up until you're about to give birth. You can have an abortion. So like ripping apart a person with fully formed hands and fingers and a nose and a head and a brain that's operational, they can feel pain. And there are laws that say that you can have a baby all the way up until the 3rd trimester. Donald Trump tried to go against that and say that, no, you can't have an abortion. First of all, he was supposed to, if at all he was truly godly about it, he was supposed to say no abortions allowed at all. But he kept it light and said, I think 7 weeks or 12 weeks or something, like 1st trimester, you can't after that have an abortion. And people were coming at him like a ton of bricks. There was this woman who on national television, while being interviewed, I believe by Fox News, who took an abortion pill on national television and caused shockwaves in the news studio of Fox, because she was like, I have a right to have an abortion. So basically that woman was pregnant and she was killing a baby like right in front of everybody. And then there are others who went and marched, hooked up a whole spectacle where they also took those pills at a march to show that they're pregnant and they're about to abort a baby right there. And then they just swallowed some pills and holding placards, and they were like, yay, yay, yay. Now they went from that, right, where they are aborting babies that are still in their stomach, to infanticide is okay. Where it is that a law is literally being passed, a doctor came up against it, where it says that if at all a baby has died outside of the womb, there will not be an investigation as to what caused it of murder. So basically infanticide is allowed. So if a baby gets killed just after it has been given birth to, Nobody is going to investigate that. That is the place where things are going when it comes to abortion laws. Now, a country that has been pro-choice all along, when they then listen to such stories that now infanticide is okay, that when a baby's finally out of the stomach, you can just put a dagger in its heart and no one is going to investigate that for murder. That's when people are like, I'm sorry, I'm happy to go and have an abortion if I've had irresponsible sex and I don't want a baby. But my goodness, once a baby is outside of the womb, it's murder. Like, it's getting so filthy that people are starting to realize that there is no end to how far people can go in terms of what they imagine is now okay. With the sexual movement, it went from you don't have to wait for sex until marriage to now orgies are okay. Right slap bang in the middle of this cultural absurdity of sexually transmitted diseases and just like a magnification even of the pestilence they're in. Super gonorrhea. Like, when the world is so filled with rape culture and porn culture, it then starts to become, but at what point is it okay? I mean, within the LGBTQIA movement, there are apparently people that are called pedosexual or something. Or, you know, like homosexual is you like the same sex, and then pedosexual, I think, is you like kids. That's your sexual orientation, even though you don't actually act out on it. I mean, and they're letting that be a part of legislation. Like, don't judge them. Be inclusive. So what that then does is make people realize that we will continue to bend the rules of God until now very unacceptable things are happening, where even pedophiles now are embraced by the LGBTQIA++ 2SL community that Justin Trudeau cannot pronounce. It gets to a point where people are like, look, I was happy to let my gay friend be, but pedosexual? I mean, like, are we okay with guys now that are into kids? Are we cool with them now? And when then people wake up to realize stuff like that, that's when they're like, okay, we're taking things too far. So perhaps maybe it is worth the while to overrule Roe versus Wade. It is perhaps worth our while to bring back laws that keep abortion at very early stages and perhaps maybe even make them illegal, period. Because the line, the goal line, it continues to expand further and further out. And so therefore there is no end to how wicked we can get as a people. No end. I believe the American conglomerate is waking up to realize that we were happy with abortions and now infanticide has become legal in certain states. It's just wholly unacceptable. We can't carry on like this. We cannot just allow for the murder of babies. I need to go inside the bank because I don't know what time it is now. The power cut left at like 12 p.m. I know they close at 3:30 at Standard Bank, so I really don't want to exceed my time because I want to get my card and just be done with that. So the society is now realizing that this is messed up, but to a point where a case actually now exists where abortion is facing extinction in the US. Who'd have thunk that would ever happen in the United States in the 21st century? Don't nobody, right? Nobody imagined that things could get there. So we look at the US and you're like, oh, you guys are under judgment. Your president sucks. I'd rather stay in Africa. And then you look at South Africa. And in South Africa, the legalization of witchcraft, the legalization of very many things that people are allowed to get away with is not causing conviction on the ground by South Africans that this is getting too far. Look at my life. Look at my life. My mother is committing infanticide. She's killing her baby. She's killing her daughter, and everybody is just looking at her because abortions are legal in this country. When a country does not get to a point of realizing that things have gone too far with certain legal structures, then it's over. It's been made a reprobate land. South Africa, witchcraft is legal. It's legal pretty much all across the world. Many countries in the world claimed under freedoms of religion. But this is what witchcraft has done to a woman's life. And I am now presently dying and screaming on the rooftops, and South Africans are not even getting to a point where they're like, it's getting too far. There is a difference between a country where God takes Lot out of Sodom and Nineveh. There is a difference between a country where if a person preaches, the Lord will grant them grace and mercy if they repent and actually wear sackcloth and ashes and fast. But a land who, upon realizing the mistake of voting a wicked man into power, and now everything is going awry, a land that does not come together and pray, God on that day is going to go and grab Lot and take him and his 2 daughters out of Sodom because the wife looked back and got turned into a pillar of salt. I am presently like Daniel, and I'm presently like Noah and Job. I'm going to get taken out of a country and then God is going to judge it. Why? Because it is not making like the United States at present, where it is that upon observing ridiculousness on the ground, they're then getting contrite, they're getting humbled, they're wearing sackcloth and ashes, and they're fasting. And so the minds of the ludicrous on the ground are actually getting transformed. That's how you know that a country is worth your while to look at. Do the people finally realize they made a mistake? If that's the case, then you can raise your kids there. You can grow there. If at all resistance is embraced or heard or collated in a court case and people actually hear what anybody has to say, if you can actually successfully fight for a cause in a country, then you can stay. But if all that you do is just rap on the rooftop and nobody helps you in a country, that's when you need to leave. I am a South African citizen. I was born here. and I am currently being killed ficklessly by my countrymen, and nobody's even listening to me lament and moan on the ground. Everybody knows that I'm suffering and I'm suffocating. I keep on writing these laborious pieces, articles on my Facebook and also on my WordPress account. I keep on uploading the work that I do on the daily. It's quite laborious. I have a lot to do, and with me doing that, everybody's watching a woman die, suffocate. Literally, I'm in the Squid Game or the Hunger Games or whatever, and people are just watching me die, and they're wondering when it's gonna happen, the funeral. Like, my life, people are waiting. They're lying in wait for what appears to be an inevitability of my death. As uncomfortable as they might be, they're not turning around and perhaps maybe resparking, reigniting Roe versus Wade. They're not trying to see if maybe, we went too far with abortion laws. They're not getting there. Well, God says that he's going to take Noah out, Job out, okay? And Daniel. He's going to take his godly servants out and then bring judgment on that land. Woe to you, Chorazin and Beth Sudan, who have heard the gospel but not responded. It'll be a better day on the day of judgment for Sodom and Gomorrah than for you on that day. Woe to you, South Africa, a country that calls itself Christian, and yet you can't even stop to reflect and think again and do some introspection when your adoration of sorcery has gotten to a point where you're now watching a woman die like she's Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games arena. That is what is happening in my life. I am being fecklessly murdered. As I speak to you right now, I have had one American guy send me money, and I was able to buy face wash yesterday. No one in this country has done anything for me, and right now I am able to go and purchase for myself more toiletries. I'm actually going to go in the mall now, get my bank card first, and then go to Dis-Chem and buy what I've needed for months but have not been able to get. And the people who did this for me were Americans. Are Americans. Somebody decided that I'm going to give this woman something so that she can go and get herself toiletries. I mean, it's not a lot of money. I can't move out of Barbara's house with 900 rands. Do you understand? But it is enough to get me toiletries that I have not had. I get bought everything, and then I get spoken to in a very condescending fashion. Just today, because of the power cut, my mother was out, having driven somewhere out there, and I decided to plug my phone into her laptop because I knew that the power cut was only going to be gone for 2 hours to charge my phone. When she came back, the way she spoke to me, why, you need to take that thing of yours out of my computer. You should have charged your phone overnight. Why didn't you think about it? Like, just overkill and just so much condescension and patronizing and energy. I just walked out of there with my whole mouth to the ground. I was so crushed. I get spoken to like I'm a dog, like I'm irresponsible, like I'm a derelict, and things that I do very casually because nobody should be giving you grief for them, like charging my phone using their laptop. I get yelled at like I was, like I said the other day, busted for having sex as a 14-year-old girl with my boyfriend on my mom's bed. I get spoken to like I am a derelict and irresponsible, and one as well that is just like so perpetually annoying and agitating that I just won't get how to be around people. I'm 37 years old. I'm highly educated. I am incredibly intelligent, and I am also quite sober. My cognition is alert. I'm acute. Everything above me is together in a bunch. I am godly. I am a good girl. I have honor. I don't just go around wreaking havoc in people's lives, and yet I get spoken to like I'm dirt. And people have observed this. Some of them have even seen the condescension on YouTube, because there was a video that I did record where I showed how I get spoken to on the daily. And South Africans are looking at this, and they're not thinking about resurfacing Roe versus Wade to see if at all there was a good judgment ruling back in the 60s. They're not repenting. They're not waking up to realize that their witchcraft is so horrific. It is so horrendous, and it achieves such bad results that it is worth their while to change their minds about what they first thought about it. To change their minds about Biden is to heal the United States from the ridiculousnesses of the policy of a man that is a puppet on the string of some Illuminati forces. To change your minds about witchcraft is a healthy thing. You did it yesterday, but if you repent, God says in his word, a broken and a contrite spirit he will not despise. My phone has officially been fully charged now, mostly charged. I think it's on 80%. I just got a notice there from my phone. So I prospered to charge the phone using the vehicle of the monster that speaks to me like I'm nobody. Right now, I haven't gotten a call on my phone to bring the car back, so I suspect they haven't even noticed that it's gone. So I need to be in and out of Dis-Chem, get what I need, quickly shop, go home, so I don't get yelled at for taking a car that I didn't even drive out that far, just to a mall very close to where it is that I stay. But because it's me that's driving it, I will then get spoken to like I'm some derelict that dared go and steal car keys and leave when I'm a licensed driver, even though my driver's license is expired, and my little sister is able to take the car, drive all over Johannesburg, taking this full tank to half and then to almost empty, and she does not get spoken to like she's the scum of the earth. My little sister is only 21 years old. I'm 37, and I get treated and spoken to like I am just this irresponsible derelict, and on top of that, I get used as a domestic worker. I wash dishes. I'm a total Cinderella, just without the desire to get taken up by Prince Charming. And South Africa will not wake up and realize that this is not the way to treat a human being made in the image of God that is so responsible, that we once loved. Their wickedness is so extreme. The demons inside them are so chaotic that they can't even stop to realize that this thing is bad. They're just running with it. They're finishing it off. They're Sodom. Don't you see? They are Sodom. They are a country that God extracts his servants out of and then judges. So SA, I'm leaving. And evidence of the fact that I am leaving is the fact that God gave me comfort through someone in another land so far away that yet again decided that I'm going to fund this woman's toiletries. Tomorrow, it's not going to be $50. It's going to be $1,000. Do you understand? The next day, it's going to be $2,000. The day after that, it's going to be 10 people who will each give me $500. And I will, with that money, be able to get myself out of the mkuku that I live in, where I work out in a tiny little space and finally get myself an apartment. And you will realize that the Lord never forsook me and he never left me. I know where my family is at. It turns out I chose right. I chose the US for good reason. Because they honor God. No matter how much as South Africa you might go against Israel and serve Palestine and support Hamas in the 11-day war, it doesn't matter what you do in South Africa, because that's just what a nation does when they're under judgment. It is what they do then when being judged that makes a difference as to whether or not God will extract his servants or give them mercy. And according to what I'm seeing right now, South Africa, you are not about to go and reignite Roe versus Wade and try to see if maybe you can't change your mind about abortion anymore. You are nowhere near getting there. So I'm leaving. I'm signing out in Christ's name. I gotta go to the bank. Peace.